All right, everyone. It is noon o'clock, which means it is time to begin. Thank you again for being here and spending part of your day with FreeWill and Candid today, our special guest. Um, I have just a little bit of housekeeping I want to go through before we jump into the meat of today's presentation. So if you'll bear with me a moment, I'll turn over the mic in just a few minutes. So we're here today to talk about year-end giving season and how one way you can help make the most of that is by earning a Candid Seal of Transparency. Some of you we know already have one, but many of you do not. So we hope that you'll get some good information today to help you earn that seal and promote it so that you can boost credibility with your donors and prospective donors. As always, today's webinar is CFRE approved for 1 continuing education credit. So if you'd like to take that credit, make sure to fill out the post-training survey. There's a question that we can use to certify you were here today in the event we need to in the future. So CFRE credit is available. This is our agenda for today. Quick intros. We have a special announcement from Patrick, who could not be here today, so I am filling in. And then we'll lead into the meat of the content with our friends from Candid. Then at the end, we'll save some time for Q&A to answer any questions we weren't able to answer as we went along. As always, we will send the recording of the session and the slide deck to you later today in an email. So yes, you will get the slides and the recording. They're coming your way. Check your inbox later in the day. Okay, quick introductions. First of all, my name is Lauren Winther-Hansen, and I'm FreeWill's nonprofit training lead. So I work with our nonprofit partners to make sure they have all the learning and training they need to be successful with FreeWill's tools and also to be better fundraisers. I've been at FreeWill for 3.5 years. Before that, I worked in nonprofit, most recently at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, where I was the Associate Director of Planned Giving. And while there, I purchased FreeWill for that organization and became a FreeWill partner and worked with FreeWill for about 15 months before making a professional change and coming here, which has been great fun as we've grown over the last 3.5 years. I'm based in Annapolis, Maryland, where it is absolutely beautiful today. I hope you are enjoying crisp, cool weather and fall foliage wherever you are. I know we've got some folks here in Miami, so maybe not so much for you. Sorry about that. But it's really fun to be here and connect with my people, all those amazing nonprofiteers around the country. You probably know FreeWill is the #1 estate planning and plan giving solution in the country. And we work with an amazing community of nonprofits, over 1,500 nonprofits now partnering with us to bring in more planned and tax smart gifts. And it's a really cool community of forward-thinking nonprofits. We hope that some of you will join us in that work. Our team has raised over $10 billion to date through our plan and smart giving tools, which is a milestone we're really proud of. And together we have over 4 centuries of combined fundraising experience and expertise on our team. So that's another thing we're proud of. We've got a great group of folks here making the dream happen for all of you. If you've not met our co-CEOs, these are our fearless leaders, Patrick Schmidt and Jenny Spradling. Patrick does normally lead our webinars, but he couldn't be here today, but they are hard at work behind the scenes, leading FreeWill fearlessly, like I said. And with that, I do have a short video message from Patrick. It's only about 2 minutes long, but we made a big announcement this morning in FreeWill, and he really wanted to tell you about it himself. So I'll quickly play that video for all of you. Here we go.
Hey friends, I'm very sorry to miss you all today. I'm in New York City. I'm working, but I have a health appointment with a doctor who is extremely difficult to schedule. So that's why I'm not there. Everything's good, but just had to get this in. There are 2 things making me happy today that I wanted to share. One, smaller, New York Mets finished a very good season. So thank you for all of you who prayed a couple weeks ago to get us to this point. That was great. Second thing that I want to share is I wanted you to be among the first people to know that we're announcing today that we have acquired a company for the first time in a serious way called Grant Assistant. And we chose to do this, Jenny, my co-founder, and I chose to do this because it's one of the most astonishing technologies and astonishingly great teams that we've come across in forever. I mean, just unbelievably powerful and cool and really values aligned with us. And so it's been such a joy to do that. What is Grant Assistant? Grant Assistant is a transformational tool for any of you who are starting out getting into grant writing and trying to secure more funding from foundations and from governments. Those of you that have a dedicated grant writer on the team or someone focused on it, it can really expand their abilities. Or those of you that have big grant writing teams doing a lot more funding that way, it can really supercharge those folks and make them much more efficient and much more successful. So what is it? At its tool, it's a solution that cuts down the time to write grants by about 2/3, which is pretty astounding. And it makes each of the grants better than you would probably do on your own. There's a lot of AI behind it, but there's also a lot of very strategic software and research baked into it to be able to create a totally customized version of Grant Assistant for your organization that is a world-class expert in the area that you work in, meaning programmatically, and your type of fundraising. So on Thursday at noon Eastern, I'm going to team up with a couple of folks at Grant Assistant. We're going to do a full demonstration of this, really dive into each of the values and some of the finer points of it. But it's so, so cool. And I hope you can join us on Thursday. And I hope you have a great time with Lauren and crew today. So thank you again, and see you on Thursday, hopefully. Hey, friends. I'm
Oops. Bear with me a second. It was a great video, but we don't need to watch it again. Here we go. All right. Thanks for indulging me, everyone, indulging Patrick as he shares that really exciting news. If you follow us on LinkedIn, you may have seen it. If you read the Nonprofit Times, you may have seen it. But very exciting news, a happy day here at FreeWill. I want to let you know that the information about Thursday's product showcase will be shared in the chat here at the end of our session. So keep a lookout for that in the chat at the end. Oh, it looks like my colleague Phoebe is on top of it. She already put the link to the product showcase in the chat. So you can click there to sign up. We hope to see many of you there. Now, today we would like to give away this very cool book to 20 of you in attendance. This book called Think Again is by Adam Grant. He's a New York Times best-selling author, and it examines the art of rethinking, of remaining curious, learning to question your own opinions and open other people's minds so that you can be positioned for excellence at work and wisdom in life. And it's a very cool book we'd like to give away to 20 of you. So if you're interested in having a chance to win a copy of this, please fill out the survey at the end of the training. That is where you'll be able to tell us you'd like a copy and where to send it. So I'll circle back to that at the end. All right. Just a few more slides and then we'll get started. We asked you all in our pre-webinar survey, how you feeling? How's your mood today? We saw a little dip in happiness and a little increase in anxiety. Now there is a pretty big election coming up in a couple of weeks. Perhaps you're feeling some kind of way about that. You wouldn't be alone. But there's also an uptick in eagerness. So maybe you're looking ahead to year end and getting excited. They're only a few weeks away from serious year-end fundraising season. How confident are you in hitting your goals this year? We're seeing a little uptick, which we also saw this time last year. So maybe as excitement builds for year-end, you're feeling more positive. If you're feeling that way, you're not alone. And we also asked you, how confident are you in your ability to attract new donors before end of year? The majority of you by far said you are somewhat confident, but there were 21% who said you don't feel confident at all in attracting new donors. Hey, listen, fundraising is hard work. We know it. And so keep your chin up. It might not be as bad as you feel. And we're going to give you some tips today of things you can do to help reach new people. For those of you who are very confident, let us know what you're doing in the chat. Share your best tips with us for the benefit of everybody for attracting new donors. And lastly, we asked you, has your org already earned a seal of transparency from Candid? Almost half of you said no, so we're really glad you're here today to learn more about it and how it can help you in your work. But a third of you said yes, you've got the gold seal, and some of you have even pushed for that platinum level seal. So congratulations to you, well done. And we hope by the end of the session, all of you will have the info you need to position yourself in the best possible way to maximize your end. Congratulations to John in the chat, who is a platinum level seal holder. Woohoo! Nicely done. Okay, so with that, I'm ready to turn over the mic to our special guest, Tracy Kaufman. Now, Tracy is an educational programming manager at Candid. So she leads workshops related to all types of essential issues relevant to philanthropy, things like fundraising and management and sustainability and more. And as one of Candid's training experts, she is a webinar instructor and a frequent public speaker. She's spoken at conferences, most notably at the United Nations, and has represented Candid on a lot of different fundraising panel discussions. So you may have seen her face before. In addition to that, she provides support to Candid community partners and provides philanthropy and fundraising services to individuals and local organizations. Now, she joined the Foundation Center in 2007. The Foundation Center is one of Candid's 2 legacy organizations. I'll let her tell you more about that in a minute. But before that, she worked for the Association of American Publishers and the New York Public Library. So she is one of us, everybody. She knows nonprofits and fundraising inside and out, and we're thrilled to have her talking to you today on this very cool topic. So, Tracy, thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, Lauren, for having me. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. It's nice to see such a sizable crowd and so many of you who already have a seal of transparency, too. It's impressive. Give me just a moment. I'm going to share my screen. So, okay. So, yeah, as Lauren said, my name is Tracy. And I'm an educational programming manager here at Candid, and I'm basically here to talk to you about giving season, Candid Seals of Transparency, and what do the two have to do with each other? What can your profile on the Candid site do for your fundraising, especially at a time like this when everything is just amping up for the last few months of the year? I realize it is a busy and stressful time for all of us right now. As we are jumping into everything, briefly, just a little bit about our organization. So we are Candid. Candid is a nonprofit organization that is comprised of 2 pre-existing nonprofits, which are Foundation Center and GuideStar. So Foundation Center, the older of the 2 organizations, goes back to 1956. And since that time, Foundation Center has been really the #1 source of data, research, and information on foundations and their grants worldwide. GuideStar, meanwhile, has been around since about 1994, and they have been the #1 source of information on the nonprofit sector. And a little over 5 years ago, we're bumping up against about 6 years ago now, Foundation Center and GuideStar joined together, became one organization. We changed our name, and now we are known as Candid. And so now all of that data, all of that research, all of that information regarding the entire social sector, foundations and their grants, nonprofit organizations like all of you, it's now all in the same place. So we do a lot of things involving the world of data, and today we're going to take a look at one of those things. So first, let's just get ready by talking very briefly a little bit about giving season, and then we're going to move into how can your nonprofit profile on Candid help you out in your fundraising during a time like this. We'll talk about seals of transparency that you can get from Candid, why they're important, how they can happen, and then we'll finish up with, okay, how do you leverage all of this to its utmost so that you do really well with your fundraising these next couple of months? Sound good? And if you have questions along the way, yeah, there is a very robust Q&A section in here. So every time I say something that doesn't make sense, like just let us know in the Q&A. Anyway, so as you're gazing upon our stock photo nonprofit professional here in this slide, do any of her kind of fundraising challenges sound familiar to you? Anything here sound relatable? Do you ever run into this problem of like, donors, they don't know that we exist. How can we be more visible to them? Or I desperately need to raise money, but I do not have friends in high places. Or am I completely and utterly new to fundraising and I have no idea how to begin? So if even any one of these three issues resonates with you at all, hopefully we'll be able to make a little bit of headway on some of that. Okay, so no pressure or anything, but the final 3 months of the calendar year are quite important for your fundraising. On average, about 26% of total giving happens in the last month of the year. Every organization is different, but it averages out to a tremendous amount of your money comes in the final month of the year. And 10% of giving, which is still quite a bit, happens in the last 3 days of the year. So if you thought you would take some vacation time at the end of the year, you still got to be checking that email and making sure that you're not losing out on any last funding opportunities. So yeah, no pressure, but it is a tiring and stressful time for us all here in the nonprofit sector. And some key dates to keep in mind. We're all, I think, familiar with Giving Tuesday. I think people put a little too much pressure on themselves around Giving Tuesday. It is just 1 month. It is 1 day out of one entirely busy month. And it is 1 day out of a very long year of busy fundraising. But even though I think people put more pressure on themselves than maybe they should regarding Giving Tuesday, it brings in a lot of money. So you can't necessarily ignore it entirely. So last year, over $3 billion was donated on Giving Tuesday. And so it's coming up December 3rd. What is that, a month and a half from now? Roughly a month and a half from now. So what are you doing to get ready for it? There's also a new giving day that has been recently introduced, which is DAF Day, for people giving from their donor advised funds. And like the fun thing about donor advised funds is they're growing in popularity to an astronomical extent. So much money moves through them. And a lot of the people who used to once upon a time start grant making foundations instead set up donor advised funds now and do their giving that way because it's a lot simpler. But too much money can sit idle in a donor advised fund if people aren't necessarily paying attention to it. So now there's a new giving day introduced. This year, it was like about a week or two ago, October 10th, that is encouraging people to give big gifts from their donor advised funds. And if you missed it this year, it's gonna be coming around next year as well. So it's good to be ready for it. So with all of this in mind, what does Candid have to do with any of this? And what can you do on our site that can help you out a little bit as we are getting ready for the giving season? Let's jump into it. Okay, so let's talk about what is a Candid profile, because it looked like almost half of you had not claimed your profile yet and did not have it updated. So let's get into it. So for those of you who are uninitiated, even if, so Candid profiles come from the GuideStar site, guidestar.org, which is one half of Candid, is originated with GuideStar. And some of you may be familiar with what it is, but for anyone who is unfamiliar with GuideStar, the site, GuideStar is regardless familiar with you because they have your tax returns. I think we all know that part of the deal of becoming a nonprofit organization is there is transparency. surrounding your organization. And part of that transparency, letting the public know what's going on behind the scenes, part of that is wrapped up in your taxes, the Form 990. And that Form 990 that your organization files each year, it's a public document. And anyone who wants to read your nonprofit's tax returns can do so for free on the internet any day of the week. And one of the primary places where those tax returns show up and where people go to look at them is Candid, specifically through the GuideStar site, guidestar.org. So chances are you exist on our platform regardless. And if people look you up, they will find your most recent Form 990 that they can review. But you do have the choice, if you so choose, to take your Candid profile on GuideStar, go in, claim it on behalf of your organization, and you get editing privileges. And so that allows you to go in and add additional information so that you can really take charge of your own narrative and use it as a storytelling tool. Like, your tax returns tell their own story, but there's sometimes an incomplete story. So we want to make sure that we are covering everything here. Sorry, my slides advanced too quickly. And so if you're able to do this, this is a completely free thing that you can do that immediately enhances both your nonprofit's visibility and its credibility in the eyes of the public at large, and specifically donors and funders. No one is going to give any significant amount of money without doing their research first and being able to make an informed giving decision. And yeah, in some ways they can check people's websites, but websites are not always kept up to date, and some are more informative than others. And they have to know who you are already, oftentimes, to know to Google your website. But if someone is looking to just make a giving decision, period, they decide, I want to give to an environmental organization in Michigan, for instance, they are able to come to our site, pull up all of the environmental organizations in the state of Michigan and research them until they feel like they have what they need to make an informed decision. So by filling out your Candid profile, you're able to give people the information they need to make that informed decision well in advance, regardless of if it's someone you know or if it's someone you don't know. And this information really has legs. It powers other platforms in addition to our own. There are a lot of different organizations and companies that make use of our data, and I'll show you some of those. We actually have over 200 different partner organizations and corporations that make use of Candid's data that comes straight from your profile. And this is a very, very small sampling of those over 200 organizations. So for example, has anyone here ever given to a Facebook fundraiser before? Or have you ever run a Facebook fundraiser yourself? If so, that information is pulled directly from Candid's data. That part of the Facebook fundraiser that says about this nonprofit, and they give you a little descriptive blurb, that is pulled straight from our data. So that is one good example. Also, donor advised funds that we were just talking about, they have been rising so dramatically in recent years. And I think anyone who really wants to have really strong, sustainable fundraising, it's good to present yourself well in front of those groups. So donor advised funds, they tend to make use of our data as well. So for example, Fidelity, they're one of the biggest donor advised fund vehicles. A high net worth donor who keeps a donor advised fund within Fidelity. Let's say they're the ones who decide, I want to give to an environmental organization in Michigan. Okay, in that case, what they're going to do is they're going to log onto the Fidelity site put in their account, and they are able to directly browse our listings through the GuideStar site from Candid Data, and they can look up, all right, show me all of the environmental organizations in Michigan. And they can narrow it down and show different subsets of those. I want to look at this type of organization or that type of organization. And that is how they can decide what their next gift is going to be. It powers all of these giving platforms like Network for Good that I'm sure you're familiar with and probably some of you are using. Also, grants management software. When you apply for a grant with a foundation, they all have their software on the back end to process all of the applications that they receive. And part of a program officer's job as they're reviewing applications is they're doing their due diligence. They're making sure everything that you say in your grant proposal adds up, makes sense, tells an honest and complete and consistent story. So when program officers are reviewing your application in their grants management software, Candid's data is oftentimes built right in. So they're able to quickly pull up your Candid profile, read through it, while reading through your grant application and making sure, are they both telling the same consistent story? So what are they going to find when they do that? So long story short, people are looking at this information. And you can't always anticipate who's going to be looking at it or when they're going to. So donor advised funds, we already talked about a little bit. This number here shows pretty much what I was talking about, $229 billion in donor advised fund assets just at the end of 2022. I don't know what the more updated number is for the end of 2023, but it's only been going up. And they can definitely use your profile as they are doing research to make their giving decisions. Okay. So let's talk about what can you do to put your best foot forward in front of these donors, in front of these funders, in front of anyone who might look at your information. What are they going to find when they get there? Okay, so if you claim your profile, which is a relatively straightforward process, the more information you add, the greater the seal of transparency you are awarded. So it starts with a bronze seal of transparency, which is a very quick process. It doesn't take much. Basically, bronze seal of transparency, putting in your mission statement and making sure your contact information is up to date. Then a little more information will give you a silver seal of transparency. This is information about your programs and maybe your branding. Gold seal of transparency, and I saw all of you who said that you already have a gold seal of transparency. Very impressive. This involves answering some financial questions and providing some information on your leadership and demographics. And then platinum seal of transparency. That is as high as it goes, and that is all about impact. And so I know what I say about like foundation funding in particular, that what foundations care about the most when it comes to you is your credibility and your impact. And filling out your profile here will automatically enhance your credibility, that you're showing, I am a transparent organization, I am trustworthy, I have nothing to hide. And this is really all about building donor trust. But it is also about telling the story of what you do and what are the results of what you do. How are you creating change in the community, the world, whatever it is that you do? And if you get all the way to a platinum seal of transparency, that is all about impact. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits to getting a seal of transparency. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this helps give people the information they need to make informed giving decisions. This enhances your visibility drastically. So for those of you who feel like, I'm invisible, I'm a small organization, I have a small audience, how can I really get myself out there? And this is a very simple, free thing that you can do that will automatically make you more visible than you used to be. It also saves time when you're talking to donors and funders. It puts all the answers to their questions in one place, telling just the same consistent story each time. And there are also some extra benefits involved as well. When you have updated your profile, you get a special shareable full profile link that you can put everywhere. You can put it on your website, put it on your social media platforms, put it in your newsletter, put it in fundraising appeals to donors, etc. And also, if you have at least a bronze seal of transparency, you're eligible to use Apple Pay for donations. All right, so how do we get there? How do you earn seals of transparency? So this is pretty straightforward. You find your profile, you update the necessary information, you publish it. So for those of you who have never done any of this before, if you don't yet have a login, a free login on the GuideStar site, you're going to go to guidestar.org and just hit create account. And it'll just have you make a free username and password. I will say, if you can, try to set up your account using your work email address, a .org email address. It will speed up your process of gaining access to your nonprofit's account. Because we need to verify on the back end that you are a legitimate representative of your organization. It's easier for us to do that if you have your .org email address here. When you have logged in, you're going to search for your nonprofit, either by name or by EIN, validate your connection, show that, yes, I am a legitimate representative of this nonprofit. And once you've been approved, then you can log in whenever you want, update your nonprofit profile. You have full editing privileges here. And this sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised. After you've made your changes, you have to remember to hit the publish button. And it can sometimes take a moment before your changes will show up. If you don't see them right away, give it 15 minutes, refresh the page, and the changes will probably be current at that point. All right. So taking advantage of seal benefits here. For those of you who already do have a gold seal of transparency, I hope that a lot of you are taking advantage of our Go for Gold campaign. If you get at least a gold seal of transparency and you are an organization with an annual budget of less than $1 million, you're eligible for our Go for Gold campaign, which means you get a free 1-year subscription to Foundation Directory at the essential level. And this alone is a very like tempting proposition, I would think. The Foundation Directory is basically the flip side of the GuideStar site, the same way that donors and funders will research you looking at your profile. You can research funders by researching them on the Foundation Directory. It is normally a subscription database, and you can have it for free through the Go for Gold campaign. And also, like I mentioned, you'll get that full profile link that you can share, put it in your newsletter, put it on your website, etc. We have a lot of good benefits here that can help you out, especially during the busy giving season. So some key tips for getting the most out of giving season here. Number 1, you want to keep your website and donation pages and your Candid profile up to date. Because even something as simple as an outdated mailing address can derail any donations that you might be getting. So that only involves getting a bronze seal of transparency. That's one that you can get in about 5 minutes. Make sure your mission statement is up there, check the contact information and make sure that it's up to date, and you will have a bronze seal of transparency. If you go further than that, then you're just giving people even more good information to share. Like if you are getting a silver seal of transparency, you're putting in some descriptive paragraphs about some of your top programs that you run, and to get people a little more aware of the type of programming that you offer. Gold seal of transparency, put in some details about your finances. If you happen to have audited financial statements, you can just upload those. If you don't, you can just answer some questions manually. And then the platinum seal of transparency, I think, is especially wonderful in terms of storytelling and telling the story of impact. So maybe talk about that in a second. The next really helpful thing to take advantage of during giving season is making sure that you're keeping in touch with your past supporters, people who have been with you from the start. So the average donor retention rate is about 45%, meaning that over half of your donors are going to disappear if they're not stewarded properly. Stewardship is one of the unsung heroes of the world of fundraising. I know at Candid, we used to have a head of development who would say it's cheaper to keep them. And so basically that means like the people who already know what you do and like what you do, you don't want to forget about them or take them for granted. You want to keep in touch with them. And not even always when you're just asking them for money. You just want to thank them periodically as well, or tell them an impact story, or invite them to an event, or meet with them, ask them questions about their lives. All of that stuff can make your fundraising more sustainable in the long run. All right, so now we got impact stories. So a report has said that 42% of donors say that success stories influence their giving decisions. They want to know if they're putting their money into a cause, that it has an effect. So can you demonstrate that you have an effect? Some of that will come across in telling the stories of your programs, which is a silver seal of transparency, and some of that would involve a platinum seal of transparency, which involves gathering a few key metrics. What are your indicators of success over time? And those will be displayed in the form of charts on our site, and they're really, really good. And Candid also makes a free resource that you can take advantage of if you're not sure of what kind of metrics you want to share with people on your site. We have this wonderful resource called the Common Results Catalog, and it is a giant PDF that goes through all kinds of different subject areas for different types of nonprofits. And for each subject area, each issue area, it will give a list of ideas of potential metrics to show that a program is succeeding in that area, that it is making an impact. And it's phenomenal for filling out your profile and getting ideas of what you could potentially use if you don't have anything on hand already. But it's also, I think, just useful in your day-to-day nonprofit life. If you are designing a new program or trying to fix one that doesn't seem like it's working quite right, if you're building a logic model, it's helpful. If anyone wants to see that, let me know and I can show it to you. And finally, tip number 4 for a successful giving season, keep asking. Like I said earlier, 10% of charitable giving comes in the final 3 days of the year. So you gotta keep campaigning. Even if you've talked to your donors in September, remember to keep talking to them as the year goes on so that they don't forget about you or they don't feel taken for granted, unappreciated, things like that. Keep them in and basically let them know how much their support means to you and how much more it will continue meaning to you if they can continue supporting you over time. So with that, if you want a similar version of this kind of spiel is available in a free self-paced course that we offer. It'll go into a little further depth of what do each of the different seals of transparency look like, what's involved in each of those, and what kind of information do you have to gather. So you might want to, if you want to learn more, try this free self-paced course that we have. And also, if you're struggling along the way, we also offer a good help guide. The help section on the GuideStar site is incredibly useful. It's full of all of these good frequently asked questions and well thought out answers to those. And we put out a Seals of Transparency guide for people every single year too, to kind of prepare you with what's the information that you need to gather. So I hope any of that can be helpful for you. Okay, so that's what I have for you. And so at this point, I'm going to stop sharing. And do we have questions?
Boy, do we. We have answered a ton of really great questions in the Q&A. I want to thank Tracy's colleague, Robin, for answering a lot of questions in text while you were going along. I encourage everybody here to take a look at the Q&A to see if your question might have already been answered. But we do have a few more, so we will take a moment to go through those. However, I have just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we do that. And then we'll try to answer as many of those questions as we can, everybody. Okay, so first, I want to remind everybody about our book giveaway. If you're interested in being entered to win a copy of this, please fill out the post-training survey, the post-webinar survey. My colleague Phoebe is going to put a link to that in the chat. And we'd love to send you a copy if you're selected. Also, as a reminder, of course, we made the big announcement at the beginning of the session about Grant Assistant. The product showcase to learn more about that is coming up on Thursday at noon. You can RSVP in the survey to get an invitation to that. And Phoebe did also put a link in the chat to register for that event if you want to hear more about our new Grant Assistant, joining hands with them as part of the FreeWill family. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at some of your questions that we did not get a chance to answer. Oh, sorry, bear with me, everybody. I have too many windows open at once. So to begin with, Karen asked if there are any statistics on the average number of times a profile gets viewed. Do you happen to know offhand how many visitors to Candid profiles someone can expect in a year, or anything?
To any one given Candid profile, or just to the site as a whole?
Yeah, I'm sure the profiles vary wildly.
It does. It varies wildly. Like, it really depends. Who are you? What do you do exactly? Where do you do it exactly? Do you have a seal of transparency yet? What level do you have? Have you used your shareable profile link to kind of get the word out there further? All of that can definitely affect things. So it's going to vary a lot for those reasons. But I'll say this. There's a slide that I didn't include in here, and I probably should have included it. That kind of shows the results of doing something like this. There was a study done through, I think it was Villanova University, back in I think it was 2018, that studied 2 cohorts of nonprofits over a couple of years. In year 1, none of these nonprofits had a seal of transparency from Candid. In year 2, one of the 2 cohorts of nonprofits got a seal of transparency. And what this study found was that nonprofits that had a seal of transparency through Candid received 53% more charitable contributions than those who did not. So that is like real information that that can kind of demonstrate to you that this is just a not that time consuming and completely free of charge thing that can do nothing but help you.
I know that was one of the questions that was asked in the Q&A was how long does it take to earn a seal of transparency? And Robin very kindly answered it. It could take you as little as 5 minutes to earn a bronze seal. It might take you 30 minutes to earn a higher level seal, and there is no cost. So this is not a huge time commitment to get up and running here, and clearly worth it with statistics like yours. We had one person ask about subject area. So in their case, they're a human services nonprofit, but they also care about environment and climate change. Is there a way for them to register as more than one subject area for their group?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think probably the majority of us deal with subjects that are kind of intersectional. Like maybe we're at the intersection of arts and education. Maybe we're at the intersection of like poverty and I don't know, immigration or something like that. You put in however many subject areas as align with your mission and your programming.
Perfect. I know several people chimed in the chat to ask how they can get the common results catalog. And I just want to point out to everyone that Tracy did share a link to that in the chat. I'll share it again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see it down here as well. So yeah, this is a relatively new updated link to it. We had one that wasn't working for a minute there. This one should work really well, but it's a really nice resource.
Awesome. Let's see. So if someone is, this is a question from Charles, and I'm interpreting a little bit. He says, how can a new organization reach or attract new donors? So if you are brand new to having a Candid profile and a Candid seal, let's say they do that today, what would you say the first things they should do to leverage that to attract new donors this fall?
To attract new donors this fall, I think just having that seal of transparency is automatically going to be helpful because it makes you stand out. There are about 1.8 million active nonprofits in the US. I think it's creeping closer to 1.9 million right now. Most of those do not yet have a seal of transparency. So if you do that, you're already on the right track. And it makes it so that when you are out there in the world reaching out to different donors, different funders, they want to make sure that you are legitimate before they make a giving decision. And so they're going to look you up. So what are they going to find? Make sure that your profile is complete, it's coherent, it tells a comprehensive story. And when you have a seal of transparency, stick it on your website. And when you have that shareable profile link, send it around. But all of this is in conjunction with all the hard work that you're already doing for fundraising. And if you're relatively small and if you're a relatively new organization, it is always an uphill battle with fundraising in those stages. Not that it ever becomes easy later on, but it is especially hard for a new organization. And basically, like, you're starting within your network as you're exploring donors who you personally have access to, who your colleagues have access to, who your board of directors knows. Like, make sure you're prepping your board of directors for giving season as well, and that they are ready to have conversations with the people in their lives. They're supposed to be ambassadors to your organization. And a lot of those people who are in the network of a board member, they often have deep pockets and they do often have friends in high places in a lot of situations, and they're going to be quick to look you up. So you want to put your best face forward. And if you're in a situation where you're lucky enough to already have some grant funding, if you already have certain funders that work with you, use them not just for their money, but for their contacts. If you're looking to reach out to a new potential funder and you're still kind of a small scale organization and you need all the help you can get, a referral from a current funder is the absolute best thing that you can have to a new funder, because they know each other in many cases, they trust each other, and that sometimes will come into play with your individual donors as well, who are especially key during giving season. Talk to your current donors and have them talk to people they know who they think might be interested in your work as well, and make sure that your profile is ready to shine when those people come to have conversations with you.
Thank you. That's awesome and very helpful. And I'll just add to what Tracy said. Here at FreeWill, we focus a lot on plan giving, but also on gifts of assets, things like gifts of stock, gifts from donor advised funds, gifts from IRAs. And we know that many of those smart gift donors use sites like GuideStar or Candid or Charity Navigator to research organizations before they make that first special gift of assets. They want to make sure that you're worthy in a way to receive that special gift. And so if you're looking to grow your cash giving or your asset non-cash giving, making sure your profiles are up to date and have all the seals that they can have and that you're sharing those is one of the very best things you can do. And again, doesn't have to cost anything or take a lot of time. Let's see, how much time do we have left? We're getting close. We can probably have time for maybe 2 more questions. So someone mentioned that you mentioned a PDF that offers metrics for success measurement.
That's the common results catalog. Yeah.
Common results. Okay, so Maura, that is available. There's a link in the chat and also in the answered section of the Q&A where you can find that. Is there a way to see who gives to an organization through the Candid Giving site?
It's easy enough to see grants that have come through. So because foundations are also very committed to transparency, the same way that a regular nonprofit is committed to transparency, grant giving, you can generally see who gives to who. And for that, I would actually suggest looking more at the foundation directory, our other like major online tool that you can look up any nonprofit organization and see what are the grants that they have received in the past. Individual donations are a little murkier because that depends on how visible does a donor want to be. This is why it's so much more complicated researching individual donors compared to grant-making foundations. Grant-making foundations, you can find every detail one way or another. But with individual donors, sometimes there will be, people will give a public thanks to the donors who gave this much or that much, whether it's on their website, in their annual report. If you really want to find who's given significant sums, check a nonprofit's annual report. You're not as much going to find a list of individual donors in a Candid profile, though. But you will see how much revenue they have pulled in from individual donors as a whole, though.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that we've answered the majority of the questions here, either live or in the Q&A. And just to be respectful of everybody's time, I think we should probably quickly wrap up. So thank you, everybody, so much for your wonderful questions and for your engagement today. Just as a couple last thoughts, we hope you will fill out the post-webinar survey. We love your feedback on these sessions, but we'd also love to know if you'd like a copy of the book, if you'd like to join us for the product showcase on Thursday, and more. So please take 60 seconds to fill that out if you can. Our next webinar will be next week, a week from today. Patrick will be back and he'll be talking about extremely practical AI tips for hitting end-of-year goals. So if you, like many, are incorporating AI into your daily workflow or want to get started with that, that would be a great session for you. If today's session has you with lingering questions about Candid or your organization's Candid Seal of Transparency, you can reach out to support@candid.org and just put FreeWill webinar in the subject line so they'll have some reference about where you're coming from and what you've heard from them, but they'd be happy to answer more specific questions. And then lastly, Patrick asked me to remind you that he loves to hear from you. So if you have a creative idea to share, if you really need anything at all, He's available at patrick@freewill.com, and he loves to connect with you on LinkedIn. So please take a look for him there so you can stay in touch. All right, now with that, that's all we've got for today. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Huge thanks to Tracy for joining us today for this very informative presentation. Thanks to my colleague Phoebe and to Tracy's colleague Robin for helping out. And all of you, go have a wonderful day, go be awesome, and keep up the great work, everybody.